Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tylor channel. Today we will be going through and doing a commentary and retrospective of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, in which I have done a veteran run as part of a new series where I will be going through COD 4 through COD 9, that being COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 3, and of course Black Ops 2, and beating them all on veteran difficulty. If you guys want to see more, obviously, let me know. I can keep going, Ghost, Advanced Warfare, so on and so forth, and keep doing the challenge. But to explain this kind of video and format, but right before we get into it, is that I will be going through with my run playing in the background and going through level by level, explaining what I like about the levels, explaining the story of what's going on, what parts I thought were challenging, what thoughts I thought were easy, and just giving my overall thoughts on the game, giving a complete retrospective and breakdown of my run, and kind of just the culture of the game, the story of the game, and the influence it had on the world at the time. So without further ado, let us get into my Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare veteran run. Call of Duty had been a big franchise, and especially got a large player base from Call of Duty 2, had a pretty big PC multiplayer scene, and kind of just introduced the big online multiplayer element that is obviously still very, very prevalent to this day, but Call of Duty never really hit the mainstream, and after Call of Duty 3 being pretty mixed reviews and received just a little bit differently between the player base and critics, Call of Duty was just kind of seen as a mid-tier franchise in the oversaturated World War II video game market. But in 2007, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare came in and absolutely changed all of that. We are taken to the present day after the entire Call of Duty franchise had been taking place during World War II, which was a very oversaturated market at the time, with other long-standing franchises such as Medal of Honor primarily being a historical World War II shooter game. With Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, we are thrust into a fictional world in which the Cold War has kind of reignited and is pushing Russia to the brink of war with America once again. And we play as a couple different characters, the main ones being Soap Maktavish, who's part of a special SAS group known as Task Force 141, kind of going on these cool spec ops missions, and as Private Jackson of the United States Marine Corps, and kind of doing a more typical Call of Duty campaign as being a soldier on the front lines. What really made this game stand out and what really propelled Call of Duty to become a global franchise was that it turned into more of a movie. You aren't just stuck with mindless characters the entire game, and you have a very compelling story where the scales are crazy, a little bit more unrealistic, of course, as this is not historical anymore, and the game delves into fiction where you do not know how the story will end. We all know how, a war ended. We all know how World War II ended. We know the outcome, and we know what the end of the game will be. But when we start Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, we don't know how it's going to turn out. We don't know if the bad guys will win, and we don't know where the story will go as this setup. One of the greatest trilogies in all of gaming, in my opinion, and really kicked off Call of Duty for its golden eras. So without further ado, let us actually get into the run of my veteran difficulty Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare gameplay. We start off the game and are instantly given controls of our playable character and one of the main characters of the entire trilogy, known as Soap. Yep, that is his actual name. It is Soap, and starts off our run of very weirdly named characters in this entire franchise. But anyway, we go through, do the training, learn how to use our guns, learn how to use grenades, and then we get to go through the training course. And let me tell you, I had to give this a couple tries because I had to set that company record, because for this run to be official, I needed to be recommended veteran difficulty. So now, with me getting the new company record, getting the veteran difficulty recommendation, we can finally go up to Captain Price and start the actual run and go into our first mission. Our actual first mission is known as Crew Expendable and takes us to a cargo ship where we have been informed by Nikolai, who is another recurring character, that there are some nefarious equipment and weapons on this cargo ship. So we go in, I ruthlessly take out the crew as they are sleeping, definitely committing some type of war crime, but as Captain Price says so heroically, is that the crew is expendable. We don't really find any real challenges. We go across the top of the ship, take out a couple of the snipers, the guards, but once we go underneath, we finally get to see what this run is really about. The enemies in this game will beam you, and a couple bullets is all it takes to take you down and set you back to the checkpoint. We also learn that the Desert Eagle has some of the worst accuracy I ever seen. Or maybe I'm just absolutely terrible at this game. I mean, just watch this gameplay in the background. I don't know how I'm missing these. But anyway, we get to the end of the ship, find out the container, open it up, and we see that it has some nuclear materials. Before we are able to do anything, our ship gets blown up, and we are forced to escape this sinking ship in our first very movie cinematic sequence. And we finally get to the edge of the ship, jump onto the helicopter, get saved by Price, and luckily are alive to move on to our next mission. After heroically escaping that ship and being part of an action sequence, we are now thrown into the back of a car as we take control of the former president of a Middle Eastern country, presumably Saudi Arabia, which is currently undergoing a coup. In this car, we see our streets have turned to madness, people are being executed left and right, until we are finally brought in front of this huge stage and are introduced to one of the main villains of this game, Al-Assad, who is the man who has just essentially taken our job and overthrown the country. And this is one of the most brutal scenes in Call of Duty, as you are forced to sit there and watch as this dude rolls up and gives you a little surprise, so to speak. And again, I just want to touch on this before we move on, is just how this game truly gave us that modern feeling and almost a bit of darkness that wasn't really present in the other games, where we are able to kind of experience the emotion in this game and how serious this is. And obviously we have the infamous Modern Warfare 2 mission that we'll get to eventually, but this is kind of the first time we see that really dark side of Call of Duty, and I think it is really good at setting up our Middle Eastern segment of the game. We are instantly thrown back as Soap Maktavish, back with Task Force 141, Captain Price, as we are attempting to save Nikolai, who is our informant who gave us the info on the cargo ship. This mission introduces our little bit of stealth elements as we're able to sneak up the mountain. We have this cool silent sniper, but overall, it's pretty easy. We finally meet up with our Russian ally, known as Kamarov, who will be recurring throughout the campaign. So I do want to take a little bit of a side tangent to kind of explain what's kind of going on in this game before we get a little bit too deep into it and the plot starts taking off. So essentially is Imran Zakhaev is the main villain of the game and is a Russian extremist back from the Cold War era who was part of the Soviet Union and loves their ideas and wants Russia to be reunited against the West again and wants to essentially use nukes to blow up American cities and, do some not nice things to us and thrust the world back into war and reunite Russia under a common cause of hating the West. Zakhaev is also who we saw in the former cutscene, handing Al-Assad the gun and funding his coup in the Middle East. So, with that out of the way, let's get back into the mission. Kamarov takes us up to a mountain overlooking a village controlled by the Russian extremists, and let me tell you, this is where I had a lot of fun. That village gets blowed up. In this part, it is just so brainless. You get to sit up here, snipe some Russian extremists, just sit back, have a great time. After definitely destroying the village way more than we had to, taking out a lot of people, we finally get a actual real challenge of the game as Captain Price is sick of Kamarov and wants to know where Nikolai is. He tells us at the end of the village that we have to clear out. And this is where the game, I really learned how tough it is. This first house, trying to clear it out, running in there, just getting one-tapped by every enemy, every corner. I really had to learn you have to take this game very methodically, learn where enemies are, learn their kind of movements and where they're going. And that I actually had to take this challenge very seriously. After clearing out the village, we get to the house that Nikolai is in. We get a little bit of a dark area where we can kill some enemies with our night vision goggles. They can't see us. It's a little too easy, honestly. But we save Nikolai, and the first thing he tells us is that the Americans are walking into a trap in the Middle East to end our mission. Back with Sergeant Jackson in the Middle East, we are in the mission Charlie Don't Surf. We are headed straight for Al-Assad, and this kind of feels reminiscent of earlier COD games where we are just a basically nameless United States soldier going through a war, fighting our way with our squad, and taking down a lot of enemies. This is definitely the first mission where I learned that grenades are one of the worst things of all time. The rooftops are jam-packed with enemies, and they are always chucking grenades at you. Just look at this. So this was one of the harder sections I managed to get through, where I was kind of just stuck trying to clear through, not get grenade spammed. But after we clear it, we finally make our way to the TV station where Al-Assad is supposed to be, as he's broadcasting across the country about his mission and the coup. We are forced to fight a lot of enemies in this cramped studio. Took a couple tries, but eventually we get through and find out that Al-Assad is not there, and it's just a recording playing on repeat. Yeah, this game does a good job of kind of trolling us a little bit. But I guess whatever. Moving on, we continue with Sergeant Jackson in the mission The Bog. And wow, if we can actually start this mission. Because the joke is, this mission could not start. For some reason, the intro cutscene, when you boot it up in the remastered version, just crashes the game on PC. And you have to go in and turn off a shader setting that took like 15-20 minutes. This literally was one of the longest sections of my entire run, and it was me trying to defeat a cutscene. Either way, we get through the most difficult cutscene of human history, and are tasked with trying to go provide reinforcements to a tank that is stuck a couple miles away from us. It's the same as the last mission where we're going through buildings, going through some streets pretty easily, but this is our first time we get to use the Javelin, blow up some tanks on an overpass, and we finally push our way to the tank known as War Pig. Such a fucking awesome name. So cool. And we get to play a little bit of like a survival mode fight. We're trying to get air support as there's enemies just bearing down on us from all angles, but there's a AA gun holding it back. So we kind of just run through willy-nilly. It only takes 1 or 2 tries because I just kind of sprinted past all the enemies. Blow up the AA gun, died a couple more times, and then finally made it to the spot where I would need to plant the air support beacon and saving our allies. And ending this mission relatively easily. Now the next mission, Hunted. We are back with the SAS as we have just got Nikolai, and the intro cutscene is sick. We get to look over and Captain Price delivers this fantastic line.
What the bloody hell is that?
And we are promptly taken down by a javelin and are being hunted through the Caucasus Mountains. This mission tries to get you to stealth early on, but I don't know if I'm just terrible at the game or what was going on, but I could just not get the stealth to work, and we were always getting spotted by people in the farm fields, so it just wasn't really working out too well. But we do get good news as we hear an AC-130 is inbound. And again, we try to do stealth in this next farm field. I tried again. It just didn't work. I was actually really, really sad. I love stealth in games, and I just couldn't. Maybe I'm just bad at it. But whatever. We finally push through, get into this house. We're getting surrounded by enemies, and they send a helicopter at us. Now, this helicopter, let me tell you, gave me some trouble. It was just beaming me through every single window. I think it took me a good 15 minutes to finally get through the section, get up to the barn, grab a stinger, and shoot down that stupid helicopter, which was definitely one of the most rewarding sights in this entire playthrough, because oh my god, just like, are you like, look at this in the background. I'm just hiding in a corner and I'm getting beaten by it. But whatever, because we get to end the mission with one of the coolest shots of the whole game as the AC-130 finally shows up and just absolutely eviscerates those people. Like, I don't know if this is war crime or not, but yeah, just like look at this. It's so cool. And we end the mission with a little bit of toughness, but mostly just because helicopter. I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad. Let's move on. Our next mission, Death from Above, is definitely one of the most memorable in the games, even though you just play as an AC-130 gunner. And it's super easy because you can't really lose unless you blow up this church in the town or kill your own allies. But it's still really fun just kind of going through, blowing up everybody. It's a really good break and just kind of a short little layover from the game. But it did not prepare me for the absolute challenge that was about to come. Right back where the bog left off, we kick off War Pig back with Sergeant Jackson in the USMC at the aptly named War Pig tank, trying to hold it off as enemies are starting to bear down on the area again. And man, this mission was just absolutely loaded with rooftop gunners. There's just grenade spamming. This section was definitely the hardest yet. It took me a good dozen or so tries to finally get through, as every single building had an enemy hiding in a corner who just two-shot beamed me. You can just look at the gameplay here in the background. It was very, very brutal. But after that, we finally pushed through a few streets and have the enemy retreating. We could just have to clear a few more buildings to kind of finish the mission, take out an enemy tank, and we take our squad to the rescue helicopter, which will finally move us on to the final little section of our Middle East portion of the campaign, where we will hopefully take down al-Assad and his evil regime. Now, Shock and Awe has to be in my top 3, possibly even top 2 missions in the entire COD 4 campaign, as it just has everything. It has the action, it has the vehicles, it has the scale. The music is so hype in the beginning. Just listen to this. Like, come on. I feel like I'm in a war movie. I feel so powerful and awesome. So, what we're doing is we're trying to get al-Assad. He's reportedly in the capital, has a nuclear warhead, and we're going in to take him down. The start of this mission is an on-rail section, as you're a chopper gunner, just blowing up everything, beaming everything, destroying rooftops. And we finally land to help out a squad pinned down by enemies. I don't get why we got out of the helicopter. That seems like not a good idea. But either way, we make it to them. They're held up in this little 2-story bare bones building. This section's a little challenging, as this building on the right stopped me quite a few times as people constantly came in the upper 2 windows and on the roof. And I believe they were never-ending spawns until I was able to finally push into the building, take them out. It took a couple tries, but we were able to do that. And we saved the squad and hopped back into the helicopter. As we are flying, one of our ally helicopters takes a missile to the face. And out of the kindness of my heart, I figured I should put it out as misery, so I attempt to take it out. But the game didn't like that very much. But either way, the helicopter gets shot, ends up going down, and what I really love about this mission is especially this sequence, as it feels like you are literally in Black Hawk Down. The pilot of the helicopter is crashed, surrounded by enemies. We have to land, go in, grab the trapped pilot, drag her back to the helicopter, all while we have just been informed that the nuclear bomb is about to go off. Yeah. This mission ends with us trying to escape the capital, looking back and seeing the nuclear bomb detonate very, very close to us, and see the impending shockwave hit our helicopter and send us into a spiral. The following little mission, if you can call it that, is called Aftermath, and we sadly watch as our playable character Jackson dies, and this entire portion of the campaign comes to a tragic end as our entire squad just died and a literal nuke just went off and wiped out 50,000 people, which we will find out is a very, very important event in the entire franchise, and will kind of set up the trilogy to come. But this, again, just shows the scale of this game. In none of the World War II games do you really get to experience something like this. Experience your character and his whole squad dying, not even halfway through the game, to a freaking nuke. But anyway, such an awesome mission, but let's get back and see what Soap is up to with Task Force 141. Safe House takes us to another village where we believe al-Assad is hiding, as we are now searching for him to kind of figure out where he got that nuke from and get revenge for what he just did to my boy Jackson, because honestly, I'm not really even over it. This mission was actually surprisingly difficult. There was this part where I got caught up in this church area where you kind of have to go through and clear out a bunch of buildings. The enemy spawns were infinite until you pushed into the buildings and took them all out, and this took me a solid 30 minutes to complete for really no reason, and was definitely the most difficult part of the game up until this point. But after we finally clear it out, we get a little bit of a game crash hiccup, but we secure the remaining houses in the village searching for Al-Assad. We eventually make it to a farm field where Al-Assad is finally captured, and we get to watch Captain Price definitely commit multiple war crimes and break a lot of Geneva Convention laws as he tortures Al-Assad, who finally gives up the name Zakhaev as the one who supplied him with the nuke. Then I get to watch Captain Price just execute him. Literally just executed this guy. Like, dude, I was 10 when I played this game, and honestly, this did not, impact me. I was like, yeah, that makes about sense. Dude, how desensitized... I'm starting to believe, did Call of Duty actually just desensitize all kids and make them violent? Either way, we are now thrown into a Zakhaev origin story, and probably my favorite mission in the entire campaign. Brief little interjection, as this is about the halfway point in the video. I'm actually currently recording the second half in the future. Kind of just got busy, but I really do want to keep putting out all of these Call of Duty veteran challenges, get them out to you guys sooner rather than later. I've been trying to really sit down and spend the time to edit these videos and make sure that I'm giving a good stream of content to the channel between the live streams and video content. So I appreciate everybody who's stopped by. And yeah, without further ado, let us get back into the video. Yeah, these next two missions are quite possibly the two greatest missions in all of Call of Duty history. I think they are almost flawless, but I will rant about that in a little bit. Let's just get into it. The next mission, as I said, is a Zakhaev origin story, known as All Gillied Up. We actually get to play as Lieutenant Price here before he is the Captain Price we know during the main campaign. And we are under the command of a Captain Macmillan. We are in the past in the city of Chernobyl, post-reactor meltdown, so it is a little bit empty, and we get the obviously iconic line, "Out to ghost town." And man, this mission really is one of my favorite in all Call of Duty history. We start by stealthing around the city, try not to be detected. We have to be wary of dogs, guards. There's this amazing sequence where we have to lay on the ground prone and pray we don't get run over or stepped on by a tank or this platoon of soldiers, all while following Captain Macmillan through the territory. This is one of the first true stealth missions in Call of Duty history, and as someone who is a huge enjoyer of stealth missions in FPS games, I absolutely am eating this up. This starts a common theme where pretty much every campaign from here on out will have at least one, if not more, stealth missions, so make sure to come back to check out the other ones in the other games. Continuing on, we get to work our way through some residential buildings, taking out some snipers, guards on patrol, until we post up in this hotel apartment building where we will be setting up in our sniper spot to hopefully take out Zakhaev in the next mission. Overall, the difficulty on this mission was quite low, especially for a veteran run-through. I don't believe I died a single time, but the purpose of this mission is solely world building and giving us a chance to kind of just sit back, snipe some enemies, and take in the atmosphere of what this game is. And this mission really does set up the events that will take place throughout the entire trilogy. The next mission, One Shot, One Kill, takes place exactly where the last one ended, with Lieutenant Price and Captain Macmillan sitting in their sniper position, overlooking the arms exchange with Zakhaev. We are here to try to assassinate him with this sniper shot. I tried to take a couple pot shots at him just to see if I was crazy with it and I could hit him, but sadly I was not able to, so I just had to wait for the wind to die down, get a nice easy shot on him, which explodes Zakhaev's arm, but we will sadly see later in this game that that might not have been enough. And now, after you take the shot, this is where the infamy of this level begins. Remember when I said the last level was not challenging at all on veteran difficulty? Well, this one definitely turns the difficulty up a notch, and the rest of this run is actually pretty difficult. A helicopter storms our position and blows it up as Captain Macmillan and us as Price have to make a desperate madhouse escape to our extraction zone. And let me tell you, this level is insane. There are dogs after you, tons of ultranaturalists, helicopters, and we have to just run, and just pray that we don't get killed on the way. About halfway through running, we have to shoot down this helicopter that has located us, and sadly it crash lands on Macmillan and shatters his legs, making it so we are forced to carry him to the extraction point. Now this is where the infamy of this level begins, because while we are carrying Captain Macmillan, we cannot shoot at all. And remember, this is veteran difficulty, where the enemies will kill you if they have you in their line of sight for no more than 2 seconds. This means that we have to consistently set down Captain Macmillan, clear out some enemies, while also going fast enough that the people chasing us are not catching up to us. Finally, we get to the last section of the game, and you are kind of setting up this little defense zone, this little tower defense zone in an amusement park, which is extremely difficult. One of the most challenging parts of the game. Took me about 30 minutes to do. You have to set up claymores around. You have to keep Captain Macmillan alive. I just kept trying to throw him in the back behind the Ferris wheel. And there's just wave and wave of enemy coming after you. I had to end up hiding behind some of the bumper cars, behind the Ferris wheel. I think it took me about 3 or 4 attempts to do this. And finally, the escape helicopter comes during one of my early attempts. I run over to it, only for the game to tell me I'm the one who needs to go grab Captain Macmillan and bring him to the helicopter. Just watch this clip, because this part absolutely broke me after surviving this brutal mission and then getting told that I have to do it all again because I forgot to grab the dude who I'm trying to save. Oh, you are fucking ugly for this one. You bastard! But luckily, after a few more attempts, we are able to grab Captain Macmillan, get our butts to the escape helicopter, and get out of Chernobyl and finally end this mission. The next mission, Heat, takes us back to the modern day, playing as Soap with the SAS, right after we had just seen Al-Assad at the safe house. We are back down in the village, and there's actually, again, another huge group of ultra-nationalists trying to come on down and kill us. And so we are stuck here in another tower defense section. The early part of this mission is pretty enjoyable. We kind of get to post up here in a chopper gunner, which is really fun. Just get to sit here, unload on the enemies. It wasn't too difficult, and I was able to clear through the enemies pretty quickly. Sadly, our position gets overrun, and we have to run back to the farmhouse where we had killed Al-Assad. And this next sequence after this, it is either the hardest or second hardest segment of this entire run. At the farmhouse, we are actually called up and given that our extraction zone is actually back way over on the other side of the town, and we only have 4 minutes to get there. The kicker is that there is a never-ending wave after wave of enemies coming that have RPGs, machine guns. There are literal tanks. And the only thing we have is maybe some javelins, maybe some missiles, and a chopper gunner. This part took me so many attempts because you have to just run and pray you don't get beamed. The enemies are never ending, so you can't try to kill them all before you go. You'll get blown up by everything. The chopper gunner is inconsistent at killing people, but eventually I came up with this left side strategy where I would just push the far left side. Anytime I was getting close to death, I would just try to prone and survive, and I would use the chopper gunner to try to buy me some cover. And I slowly made my way down, just praying that I didn't get beamed by some random person. And after about 40 entire minutes, I made it down to the hill to the extraction zone, and I just hid in a corner for the rest of the time because there was no way I was going to die here. But thank God my shining knight, the escape helicopter, came. I was able to hop in, and we were finally able to end this mission. Something I wanted to add regarding the last mission as well is that Heat was the start of our final segment of the game where we are stuck with the SAS and playing as Soap, doing back-to-back-to-back missions all the way up until we finish the game. And I really like this touch because many previous Call of Duties, you consistently jump from character to character, which I do like, but I really appreciate the way that this game sets up the trend that the first act and possibly the second act see you jumping from between two different characters, as we got to see, but also giving us a final finale act where we are stuck with the same cast of characters and kind of get to see this story really hit its climax and amazing conclusion. The next mission, The Sins of the Father, starts us off trying to locate Zakhaev's son, as we have no idea where Zakhaev is or where his nuclear launch facility is. We stroll through the ultranationalist camp, eventually getting to this really amazing ambush section. And once the ultranationalists come and Zakhaev's son is there, we ambush him. Our watchtower gets absolutely destroyed, and we are headed on this absurdly long chase scene, trying to keep Zakhaev's son in view as enemies are rushing us. If he gets too far away, you lose the mission, and we have to kind of learn the spawns. But after a few attempts, we are able to get there, chase him there, and capture him on the top of an apartment building roof. And while he's cornered, though, he pulls out a gun and unalives himself to avoid leaking any information. But somehow we're still able to figure out where the base is that is holding all the nukes, where the launch site is. So this mission was kind of pointless. So even though it was a little cool, I just don't really like this one because it doesn't really serve a point. But every mission from here on out is quite fantastic. In the next mission, Ultimatum, Zakhaev issues an ultimatum saying that he will use his nuclear arsenal against the West, primarily the United States, in order to reignite the Cold War and turn it hot and unifying the Soviet Union once more. This mission is pretty enjoyable because it starts off as a little bit of stealth as we're heading towards the launch facility, and we have to save Griggs, who is captured. After saving Griggs, we get to go down and blow up this electrical tower, which is a very satisfying scene that I do remember from when I played the game as a kid. After that, we keep going down the mountain, fighting our way towards the facility, and we have to clear out quite a few endless enemy sections while pushing closer to the launch room. As we approach the launch facility, unexpectedly, in a last-ditch effort, Zakhaev launches all of his nukes at the U.S. eastern coast, turning up the intensity of the rest of the game as we must race against the clock to stop these nukes before they plunge the world into war. This was a fairly easy mission, but one of my personal favorites, as it has a little stealth, a lot of action, and really sets up the finale of this game. The next mission, All In, takes place right at the bottom of the mountain as we are trying to enter the launch facility and watch the nukes sail away towards the United States. This mission is a little difficult. There's enemies everywhere that you have to kind of run around, clear out everybody. And there are actually a few tanks here on top of the launch facility that you do need to find some ammo for to take out, which was kind of difficult and did take a few attempts, but overall this was a pretty short mission and really just setting up the next mission, which is our final big fighting mission. Picking up with no fighting in the war room, we are inside the launch facility trying to make our way to the control room to enter the abort codes and shut down these nukes before they hit and kill a lot of people. This mission is particularly memorable because there is just that constant clock at the top that is ticking down, letting you know that if you don't beat this mission within that time frame, you will lose as well, which just adds that extra level of anxiety because this mission is quite difficult. You do need to sit here and learn the enemy positions. As you can see here, it took me quite a few attempts, especially this long hallway with a lot of different connecting doors and hallways where there's enemies around any corner and they will pre-fire, shoot you, and one-shot you. After a few attempts, though, we make it to a wall bordering the control room. We break in, kill the enemies in there, enter the abort codes, and shut down the nukes. This mission I really enjoy because I think it has the highest stakes, possibly in the entire Call of Duty franchise. The anxiety and atmosphere is really amped up to 11. Your heart's going to just be constantly racing during this mission, and I think it's just one of the more hype, fun missions to play in Call of Duty that really gets your adrenaline going, too. But after this, we are trying to catch up to Zakhaev and ambush him, so we make our way to a vehicle depot, but sadly he gets there first and is able to escape right before us. But that leads us right into our finale mission as we hop into a truck to chase him down. Our final mission, Game Over, is for the most part an on-rail mission as we are chasing down Zakhaev in the back of this truck, armed with machine guns, RPGs, as we're fighting on other trucks, helicopters, and just all the enemies that are coming our way. Overall, this part is pretty easy. You can kind of just crouch down, shoot the people, keep coming in and out of crouch. Pretty easy. And overall, this mission is a little underwhelming being the finale, as I feel like on-rail sections are just a lot more boring because they take a lot of the control out of the player. But the end of this mission is incredibly iconic for good reason. After racing down the mountainside, we make it to a bridge where the attack helicopter pursuing us finally lands a pretty good missile that blows up the bridge and forces our vehicle to flip. During this firefight, we go down. Griggs attempts to rescue us, but ends up getting shot. The helicopter lands, revealing that it was Zakhaev inside all along, and as he's walking up, we get this iconic shot of him walking up, executing Griggs, and then as the helicopter explodes and he's distracted, facing the other way, Captain Price slides us his pistol, and we finally end Zakhaev once and for all, finishing Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The game officially ends after we are airlifted away, and we look over to see Price being given CPR as he lays there unresponsive, so we, the player, are left to think that he is presumably dead. But yeah, it is the end of the game, and we are officially left with the credit roll and an insanely groovy Call of Duty rap. Just listen to this a little bit here.
Board shit, don't soil your drawers, cause it's deep in his hard, bitch. Ready for action, 50 cal, start the clapping. 4 horsemen kicking a rerun, asking what's happening.
But overall, I just want to get into some of my closing thoughts before I wrap up the video. Thank you for all of you who have stuck with it. I know it's a long video, and I know it's taken me a long time to get this out here, and I really hope to get the Call of Duty World at War, Modern Warfare 2, and Black Ops videos. I want to try to get at least one done a month, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications and be looking out for that. And I stream all of these games, so if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe here or on Twitch, which can be found in the description over at twitch.tv/TylordTV. And I will be streaming still a few more Call of Duty games as well, so you can check those out. But without further ado, let's get into my closing thoughts. This Call of Duty game really engrossed me as a kid. My first experience with Call of Duty was Call of Duty 3 on the Wii, which I know, a notoriously bad game. But it was super underwhelming. I thought it was just, a generic another World War II shooter game, which it basically was, and didn't really have any high expectations for Call of Duty 4. Once I eventually got an Xbox 360, it came with Halo 3, and shortly after for Christmas, I got Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. And this game blew me away. For the first time in Call of Duty history, we went to the modern day, and this really set up the dark tone and the amazing storylines that we would see from Call of Duty 4 to Black Ops 2, which is often referred to as the golden era of Call of Duty. This game also introduces some of the most iconic NPCs in gaming history and just characters in general, with Captain Price, Soap, General Shepard. Sadly, doesn't show us Makarov yet, but we get Zakhaev and kind of get that origin story and sets up the rest of the Modern Warfare trilogy. And this game just does a fantastic job at elevating the stakes like we had never seen before. As I mentioned earlier in the video, with the previous games taking place in wars that have already happened, we know what to expect, we know the outcome. This game is a lot more similar to a Hollywood high-budget action movie, where we don't know where it's going, the stakes are a lot higher, and we just have no idea what's going on, but we're just this epic army guy that gets to kind of just fight our way through and experience this firsthand. And this is how Call of Duty has, for the most part, gone from here on out. We have made the occasional jump back to World War II a few times since this game, but the vast majority of the Call of Duty franchise has either been modern day or the future, since this game did perform so amazingly. And we are also not just a nameless soldier like in the other games. We do get a little bit of that with Private Jackson, but they kill him off not even halfway through the game. This time we get characters with a name, with a story, with personality, who we're able to grow with and experience this story with like we have never seen before. This is also the start of the very first Call of Duty trilogy, where they have the time, they have 3 entire games to flesh out this entire narrative. In conclusion, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was by far the best Call of Duty game at the time. It took everything that Call of Duty had been doing well with the gunplay and the action, and introduced amazing soundtrack, story, and of course a very, very addictive multiplayer with the introduction of kill streaks. One weird comparison I like to make is, as Super Mario 64 was kind of the birth of the 3D Mario games and really what propelled that segment of Mario, I think Call of Duty 4 is to the Call of Duty franchise as a whole. Call of Duty 4 really defined what Call of Duty would be from here on out, and to this day, that formula has, for the most part, stuck. This game was absolutely amazing, and if I had to rate it out of 10, it would be somewhere between an 8 and an 8.5. My only gripes being some of the early missions are just not very exciting with the Private Jackson, again, the nameless character thing, but I still think they are very, very enjoyable. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be doing a Mile High Club, which is actually an extremely hard bonus mission after the credit scene. I will be making a separate video for that, covering that, because that itself is actually its own journey. That'll be a short one that I hope to get out pretty soon as well. And Call of Duty World at War, I hope to try to finish by the end of February or early March. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day. Peace.